Hey everyone, welcome back to Motivation Library, where we do deep dives into the books that can help us level up our lives. And today, we're tackling a classic.
Oh, yeah, this one's a big one.
It is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This book has been a mainstay on bestseller lists for years, and I think it's because it really challenges how we think about money.
Totally. It's not the typical save your pennies advice. It's more about mindset and the strategies that wealthy families use to build wealth.
Exactly. So I'm Steve Cole.
And I'm Sophia Blake. And Steve, I think what makes this book so compelling is Kiyosaki's personal story. He grew up with these two father figures.
Oh yeah, his own dad, who was a teacher, super smart guy, but struggled financially. And then there was his best friend's dad.
The rich dad, a self-made entrepreneur who taught him a whole different set of lessons about money.
And those contrasting lessons are really at the heart of the book.
They are. One of the biggest takeaways, and this is right in the title, is that the rich don't work for money. They make their money work for them.
And this is where assets come in, right?
Absolutely. Most people trade their time for money. They get a job, earn a paycheck, but the rich focus on building assets, things like businesses or real estate or stocks.
Things that generate income even when you're not actively working.
Right. And Kiyosaki even illustrates this with a story from his childhood. You know about the comic book library.
Oh, yeah. He and his friend Mike, they were tired of paying 10 cents a pop to read comics.
So they started their own little library in Mike's basement, charged their friends a small fee.
Brilliant. A perfect example of thinking like an entrepreneur.
Exactly. See a need, find a solution, and start generating income. And that leads right into another big point that Kiyosaki makes, financial education.
He's a huge advocate for it.
Oh, absolutely. Because he says traditional schools, they prepare us for jobs, not necessarily for financial success.
It's up to us to seek out that knowledge about investing and how to make our money work for us.
And there's this story he tells about a woman who was playing his cash flow game.
Oh, the board game he created to teach people about investing.
Yes. And this woman got so frustrated because she wanted a quick win, a shortcut to riches.
She didn't want to put in the time to learn the strategies, understand the game.
Exactly. And that really highlights a common resistance people have to investing time in financial education.
It's like they want the results without the work.
Right. But building wealth, it's a process.
And Kiyosaki is really adamant about that.
Absolutely. And he talks a lot about overcoming fear, especially the fear of losing money. I think that keeps a lot of people from investing.
Makes sense. You're putting your hard-earned money at risk. It's natural to feel scared.
But Kiyosaki, he says fear can be paralyzing.
It can keep us stuck in that rat race, working for money out of necessity instead of building true financial freedom.
And he compares it to the joy of being rich,
suggesting that for many people, the fear of losing money is stronger than the joy of having it.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it?
It is. So how do we break free from that fear?
Well, Kiyosaki is a big believer in facing your fears head on. He sees failure as a part of the process, a learning opportunity.
You learn more from your mistakes than your successes.
Right, exactly. And he has this interesting analogy about workaholics being lazy.
That seems counterintuitive.
It does, but he's talking about the kind of laziness that comes from avoiding difficult situations.
So a workaholic might bury themselves in work to avoid dealing with personal problems or having tough conversations.
They're busy, but they're not actually confronting the things that matter.
Which ultimately holds them back from real growth, both personally and financially.
Absolutely. So we've talked about mindset, but what about the practical steps? How do we start building that asset column?
Well, Kiyosaki is a big proponent of real estate, which makes sense.
Yeah, it's a tangible asset.
Something you can see and touch. It can generate cash flow through rental income.
And he encourages people to think big, but also to start small.
He didn't become a real estate mogul overnight.
Right. He started with smaller deals, learned the ropes, and gradually scaled up.
And he also addresses a common objection to real estate investing, the whole, I don't want to fix toilets thing.
He basically says, you don't have to hire someone. The point is, don't let small tasks get in the way of big opportunities.
It's about working on your business, not just in your business.
Exactly. And that ties into the idea of developing your financial intelligence.
Which is so much more than just knowing how to balance a checkbook, right?
Absolutely. Kiyosaki breaks it down into 4 key areas: accounting, investing, understanding markets, and the law.
It's about having a comprehensive understanding of how money works.
And he emphasizes learning from those who have already achieved what you want, which is why mentors are so important.
Finding those mentors can be a game changer, can't it?
It can. He learned so much from his rich dad. And he tells this story about his friend's son gave him $3,000 to invest.
knowing he might lose it all.
Exactly. He wanted him to learn from experience, to understand the risks and rewards of investing.
And he had the young man open a brokerage account, learn about different strategies. So it's about taking action, getting your hands dirty.
Not just reading about it in a book.
And there's another great story in the book about a friend of Kiyosaki's who saw opportunity where everyone else saw a problem.
Oh, you mean the one about the rundown house?
That's the one. Everyone thought it was a nightmare, but what they didn't see were the 4 extra empty lots that came with it.
He tore down the house, sold the lots to a developer, made a killing.
It's all about seeing the potential,
Right.
not letting fear blind you to the possibilities.
Exactly. Which brings us to another crucial point, overcoming cynicism.
Kiyosaki talks about the Chicken Little syndrome, where people are so afraid of things going wrong.
They miss out on incredible opportunities.
Yeah. He uses the example of the stock market. People panic when the market dips, they sell their investments.
Instead of seeing it as a potential buying opportunity.
They let fear dictate their decisions instead of logic,
And he talks about stop orders in the stock market.
which are essentially safety nets. You can set a specific price at which your stock will automatically sell.
So you're limiting your potential losses.
It's a way to manage risk, not just react out of fear.
Exactly. And remember his perspective on laziness.
Oh, yeah. Not just being slothful, but procrastinating because of fear and avoidance.
Like that workaholic we were talking about earlier.
Busy, but ultimately avoiding the things that matter.
Exactly. And that kind of laziness can keep us stuck in a cycle of working for money instead of building assets that create true financial freedom.
So how do we start making these changes?
Well, Kiyosaki lays out this framework in the book called the cash flow quadrant.
It illustrates 4 different paths to generating income and building wealth.
We have the E quadrant for employees, the S quadrant for the self-employed or small business owners, the B quadrant for big business owners, and the I quadrant for investors.
And each quadrant has a different mindset, a different approach to money.
Right. Employees often seek security and benefits. The self-employed have more control but might work even harder.
Big business owners leverage systems and teams, while investors focus on building assets that generate passive income.
And Kiyosaki himself, he transitioned from the E quadrant to the B and I quadrants.
A great example of how you can shift your path and choose the one that aligns with your goals.
It's all about recognizing that you have the power to choose your financial future.
So we've talked about the cash flow quadrant and the importance of changing our mindset about money.
But what are some practical steps we can take?
Well, Kiyosaki has a lot of advice, but one of the most powerful is the concept of paying yourself first.
And that might sound counterintuitive, especially if you're struggling to make ends meet.
It does. But he's not saying ignore your bills. He's talking about prioritizing your financial future.
Even if it's just a small amount at first, it's about making that commitment to yourself.
Shifting the focus from spending what's left over to investing in your asset column before anything else.
Exactly. It's a mental shift as much as a financial one.
Because we're so conditioned to pay everyone else first, right?
And that's what keeps so many people stuck in a cycle of financial struggle.
They're always on that treadmill, working hard but not getting ahead.
Paying yourself first, even a small amount, it's about breaking that cycle.
And building a solid foundation for your financial future.
And this is where seeking guidance from financial experts, like brokers who have your best interests at heart, can be so helpful.
Because navigating the financial world can be complex.
Absolutely. And Kiyosaki stresses the importance of finding those mentors, those advisors who can help you make smart decisions.
So it's about taking action, doing your research, and seeking out the guidance you need.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it really provides a roadmap.
A set of principles that can help you achieve financial freedom.
And one of the most powerful messages in the book is about overcoming cynicism and embracing a more empowered mindset.
He encourages us to shift our focus from what we don't want to what we truly desire.
And to break free from those limiting beliefs that hold us back.
Remember that example about real estate investing?
Yeah.
The person who says, I don't want to fix toilets.
Oh, yeah. Kiyosaki's response is brilliant. He basically says, what makes you think I want to? He's showing how they're focused on a minor detail.
Is blinding them to the bigger picture, to the potential for building wealth.
He's saying there's always a solution. You just have to be willing to think outside the box.
And to think big, even when starting small.
Right, like when he wanted to buy computers for his company.
Instead of buying just 1 or 2, he called his friends, pooled their resources.
And negotiated a bulk discount because they were buying so many.
It's a great example of leveraging your network and being resourceful.
It applies to investing, too. All those big companies on the stock exchange, they started out small.
It's about seeing the potential and taking those calculated risks.
And remember the story of Colonel Sanders?
Didn't become a multimillionaire until he was in his 60s, after he lost everything.
Talk about perseverance. He didn't let setbacks stop him.
And that's a key message in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, isn't it? Success often follows failure.
Absolutely. Kiyosaki uses the analogy of the Alamo. He says, losers avoid failing, and failure turns losers into winners.
It's about embracing that learning process.
And finding heroes, people who inspire you.
Kiyosaki talks about how, as a kid, he idolized baseball players like Willie Mays and Hank Aaron.
And as an adult, his heroes became successful investors like Warren Buffett and Donald Trump.
It's about studying those who have achieved what you desire, learning from their successes and their mistakes.
And there's this powerful exercise he outlines in the book. Imagine you're back in school and the teacher asks, what do you want to be when you grow up?
But it's not just about choosing a career path, right?
But no, it's about envisioning your ideal life.
Your financial freedom, your time freedom.
Your impact on the world. Connecting with your deepest desires.
And that's where he introduces the concept of the 3 different types of income.
Ordinary earned income, portfolio income, and passive income.
His poor dad, the school teacher, focused on earned income, that steady paycheck.
But his rich dad emphasized building streams of passive and portfolio income that keeps flowing even when you're not working.
And that's how Kiyosaki achieved his own financial success.
And he tells a story about his friend Bill, who solved a problem in a village in South America.
What was the problem?
They had no clean water. Bill was tasked with finding a solution.
So he dug a well.
He could have, but he thought bigger. He realized if one village needed clean water, others probably did too.
So he started a company.
Exactly. A company that builds clean water systems in villages around the world.
That's amazing.
And here's the thing. He only makes a penny per bucket of water delivered.
But he delivers billions of buckets every day.
So whether he's working or not, the money keeps coming in.
That's the power of passive income.
He built a system that works for him.
And that's what Rich Dad, Poor Dad is all about, right?
Uh-huh.
Challenging us to think differently about money, to build those assets that create true freedom.
And one of the best tools he created for this is the cash flow game.
Oh yeah, the board game we talked about earlier.
It simulates real-world investing. You learn about different asset classes, make decisions, experience the ups and downs.
All without risking any real money.
It's a fun and engaging way to learn.
And Kiyosaki stresses it's not just about winning the game.
It's about learning from your mistakes, developing the mindset of a successful investor.
Because some people, they might win the game, but they don't know what to do with the money in real life.
They might make great investments, but then they sabotage themselves with bad financial decisions.
And that's where that financial intelligence comes in.
Well, right. And the cash flow game helps you develop that.
And he even created a version for kids. Cash flow for kids.
He believes financial education should start early.
It's never too early to learn about money and investing.
And his company, the Rich Dad Company, they continue to create books, games, educational resources.
It's all about empowering people to achieve financial freedom.
And Kiyosaki's own journey is a testament to that.
He went from struggling to becoming a best-selling author, a successful investor, an advocate for financial education.
His book has inspired millions.
It's a book that remains incredibly relevant even today.
And that's why we're doing this deep dive.
We want to unpack those core concepts,
The actionable insights.
the real-life examples.
So you can apply them to your own life.
Whether it's reading Kiyosaki's books, playing the cash flow game, or finding mentors in the financial world.
Take what you've learned and start taking action.
We believe that by embracing the principles of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you can create a brighter financial future.
So before we wrap up this first part, I want to leave you with a question to think about.
Okay, hit me.
If you could design your ideal financial future, what would it look like?
That's something for all of us to ponder.
We'll be back soon to explore even more insights from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Welcome back to Motivation Library. We're diving deeper into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And one of the things that really struck me in the first part was Kiyosaki's definition of financial freedom.
Yeah, it's not just about having a ton of money, right?
Right. It's more about having choices,
Having options. Designing a life where you're not constantly stressed about money.
where you can pursue your passions, spend time with loved ones, give back to your community.
Exactly. And the cash flow quadrant really helps us understand the different paths to achieving that freedom.
right? We talked about the E quadrant for employees, S for self-employed, B for big business owners, and I for investors.
And it's so interesting how Kiyosaki's own journey took him through those quadrants.
Yeah, starting as an employee at Xerox, then moving into the B and I quadrants as he built businesses and investments.
It shows that you're not stuck in one quadrant.
You can evolve and transition as you learn and grow.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that each quadrant has its own mindset, its own skill set.
So for example, employees, they often prioritize job security and benefits.
While entrepreneurs, they're more comfortable with risk and uncertainty.
And big business owners, they focus on building systems and teams.
While investors look for those assets that generate passive income.
Right, so it's not about saying one quadrant is better than another.
It's about understanding the characteristics of each and choosing the path that aligns with your goals and your values.
And I think that's really empowering, isn't it?
It is. The cash flow quadrant, it gives you a framework for understanding different ways to generate income and build wealth.
So you can consciously choose the path that resonates with you.
And Kiyosaki stresses that no matter which path you choose, continuous learning is key.
He talks about financial intelligence as a muscle.
That you need to keep exercising and strengthening.
It's not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. It's reading books, attending seminars, finding mentors who've already achieved what you want to achieve.
And he also talks about the importance of finding a reason greater than reality
Oh yeah, a powerful why.
that fuels your commitment to financial freedom.
Even when faced with challenges.
Can you give us an example of what he means by that?
Sure. He tells this story about a young woman who wanted to swim for the U.S. Olympic team.
Wow, that's a big goal.
It is. And she had to make incredible sacrifices to get there, waking up at 4 a.m. to train, missing out on social events.
That takes serious dedication.
And when Kiyosaki asked her what kept her going through all the challenges, she said it was love.
Love.
Yeah. She said, I do it for myself and the people I love. It's love that gets me over the hurdles and sacrifices. That's so powerful.
Isn't it? It's about finding a purpose that's bigger than yourself.
Something that truly motivates you.
And that's what Kiyosaki emphasizes. Find a why that's so deeply rooted in your values that it propels you forward.
Because, let's face it, building financial freedom, it takes work.
It does. It takes effort, resilience.
And having that strong why can be the difference between giving up and persevering.
Exactly. So we've talked about mindset, motivation, but what about the practical steps? How do we actually move towards our goals?
Well, Kiyosaki is all about taking action. He's like, just do it.
He encourages us to stop making excuses and start implementing what we've learned.
He even says, just because you bought a house or two doesn't make you an expert at real estate.
Right. It's about continuous learning, refining your skills, and gaining experience in the real world.
He's saying don't let perfectionism hold you back.
Exactly. And he also warns against analysis paralysis.
Overthinking and planning without actually doing anything.
Sometimes you just got to jump in and get started.
And be willing to make mistakes along the way.
Right.
He's very open about his own failures. He says, I've never met a rich person who's never lost money.
He sees failure as an inevitable part of the journey.
And it's how you respond to those setbacks that really matters.
So it's about learning from those failures.
He uses a great analogy about learning to ride a bike.
We all fall down when we're first learning.
But we get back up, we try again, and eventually we master it.
And it's the same with our finances.
Keep learning, keep experimenting, keep refining your approach.
Another obstacle Kiyosaki talks about is cynicism.
Oh, yeah. That can be a big one.
How do we overcome that?
Well, Kiyosaki believes cynicism is often rooted in fear.
He brings back the story of Chicken Little.
The sky is falling.
It's that voice of fear and doubt that can hold us back.
And we all have a little bit of Chicken Little inside us.
So how do we quiet that voice?
Kiyosaki suggests seeking out balanced perspectives.
So don't just listen to the naysayers.
Right. And have a clear plan. Understand the risks involved in any investment.
Knowledge is power.
Exactly. And find mentors who can offer guidance and support.
Having that network can make a huge difference.
He also believes in celebrating our successes.
Oh, yeah. We need to acknowledge those wins, big and small.
It keeps us motivated and reminds us that we're making progress.
And I think that's the essence of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It's a book about empowerment.
Recognizing that we have the potential to create financial freedom.
And it gives us the tools and the mindset to make it happen.
Now, I know a lot of listeners are probably curious about the specific strategies that Kiyosaki used.
The nuts and bolts of his real estate investments, his stock picks.
And we will get into those in the next part.
We'll explore some of his specific tactics.
But before we move on, I want to touch on something that he emphasizes throughout the book, the importance of mindset.
Oh, that's huge. He believes our thoughts and beliefs about money play a major role in our financial outcomes,
It's like we have these subconscious programs running.
often shaped by our upbringing, how we were taught about money as kids.
And those beliefs can either support or sabotage our efforts.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki gives us strategies for identifying and shifting those limiting beliefs.
Beliefs like money is evil or rich people are greedy.
He wants us to challenge those beliefs that are holding us back
So it's about becoming aware of our thoughts
and consciously choosing to adopt a more positive and empowering mindset.
and surrounding ourselves with people who support our financial goals.
People who have a healthy relationship with money themselves.
Because our social circle can have a big impact on our financial choices.
Absolutely. Pay attention to the financial conversations you're having, the habits you're observing.
And now, before we jump into part 3, I want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is one limiting belief about money that you're willing to challenge today?
That's a great question for all of us to consider.
We'll delve deeper into specific strategies and examples in part 3.
So stay tuned.
Welcome back to Motivation Library for the final part of our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
We've covered so much already.
The cash log quadrant mindset shifts.
Financial education, the importance of assets.
And that powerful why that drives us.
Now we're going to get into some of the specifics.
The strategies Kiyosaki used to build his wealth.
But it's important to remember these are just examples.
What worked for him might not work for everyone.
It's about understanding the principles behind his actions.
And then applying those principles to your own situation,
Right. Let's start with real estate.
which Kiyosaki considers a foundation of his wealth building.
He's a big fan of real estate.
And it makes sense. It's tangible,
It's historically been a stable investment.
and you can generate cash flow through rental income.
But he didn't start by buying huge expensive properties.
No, he focused on affordability.
Properties that had the potential to generate positive cash flow.
So he was looking for deals
Exactly. He often looked for properties that needed some work.
so he could buy them at a lower price.
Fix them up, increase their value, and either sell for a profit or rent them out.
Creating that passive income stream,
Right. And he also talks about the tax advantages of real estate investing.
something a lot of people don't think about.
There are deductions available that can really reduce your tax burden.
So it's important to work with knowledgeable advisors.
Absolutely. Now, another area where Kiyosaki has had success is small cap stocks.
Those are companies with a smaller market capitalization,
That's right. They're often considered riskier than larger companies,
but they also have potential for higher growth.
which is what attracted Kiyosaki,
He likes that challenge.
and the potential rewards of investing in up-and-coming businesses
So he's looking for companies that are innovating,
that could disrupt their industries.
and he's okay with taking risks.
He knows not every investment will be a home run,
It's part of the game.
but it's important to do your research.
Understand the business and have a clear exit strategy.
Exactly. Now, beyond specific investments, Kiyosaki talks about developing entrepreneurial skills.
Even if you're not starting a traditional business,
He believes those skills are essential for success in any area.
things like sales, marketing, negotiation.
Financial management.
It's about having that well-rounded skill set.
And he encourages us to find ways to develop those skills.
Take courses, read books, find mentors,
And build a strong network.
because your network is your net worth.
It's true. Connect with people who can offer support and advice.
People who can open doors to opportunities.
Exactly. Now let's talk about one of the most important concepts from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Paying yourself first.
It's such a simple idea, but so powerful.
It's about shifting your mindset about money.
Most people pay their bills first, and then whatever's left over goes to savings or investments.
But Kiyosaki says that keeps us trapped.
Because our own financial goals always come last.
So he says pay yourself first, even if it's just a small amount.
Make that commitment to your future.
And I know it can sound tough if you're struggling financially.
I get it. But even small contributions can make a difference over time,
It's about building that habit.
no matter what your income level is.
And it's not about depriving yourself.
It's about making conscious choices with your spending,
Reducing unnecessary expenses.
freeing up more money to invest in your future,
Kiyosaki is all about being resourceful,
finding creative ways to generate income and build assets,
thinking outside the box,
challenging conventional wisdom.
and never stop learning and growing.
And I think that's a great summary of the book's message.
It's not about following a formula,
It's about developing your financial intelligence
defining your own success.
and taking action to achieve it.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a guide.
A set of principles that can help you on your journey.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
We encourage you to reflect on what you've learned.
what resonated with you?
What are you inspired to do?
And what steps can you take today to move towards financial freedom?
It's your journey.
You have the power to create the future you desire.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
We hope it's giving you some valuable insights and inspiration.
We'll be back with more deep dives into books that can help you level up your life.
Until then, keep learning, keep growing.
And keep striving to create the life of your dreams.